Thanks again for joining us. My name is Emily Vale. I'm the Executive Director of the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. Welcome to our Climate Smart Communities and Water webinar series. The Hudson River Watershed Alliance is a regional nonprofit that works to unite and empower communities to protect our shared waters. We do this by supporting watershed groups, improving coordination across municipalities, and communicating as a collective voice. Why are we talking about watersheds when it comes to climate change? Watersheds are really key to understanding and adapting to water-related climate impacts. A watershed is the land area where all of the land and water flows to a particular water body. And because of this, it impacts flooding, drought, erosion, and water quality impacts such as harmful algal blooms. Climate Smart Communities is a New York State program that helps local governments take action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to a changing climate. They provide grants and free technical assistance to help support municipalities through this process, and you can learn more at climatesmart.ny.gov. Registered communities can pass the Climate Smart Communities Pledge to add their names to the registered list, and certified communities complete and document actions that mitigate and adapt to climate change at the local level. Having Climate Smart certification results in increased points on some state grant applications, so it's really important to help bring in additional grant funding for your work. The Climate Smart Community Certification Program is based on pledge elements that have certain actions. Each action has a certain number of points, and depending on the number of points, you can receive a bronze, silver, or gold certification through the program. 2 of the actions are required, 13 are priority, and there's over 100 more potential actions under a wide range of topics. So almost no matter what your priorities are locally, there's opportunities to get Climate Smart Communities points for implementing some of these positive actions. Actions for certification are organized under the 7 different pledge elements, and the land use policies, pledge element 6, and enhancing community resilience, pledge element 7 in particular, have a lot of connections to water and watersheds. So there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration in climate smart communities. Our Climate Smart Communities Task Force don't necessarily need to be the ones who are doing these projects. You can collaborate with watershed groups or other volunteer groups that might be working on projects that are aligned with these programs. And it's great to leverage both municipal and community strengths to get points through this program. Through our webinar series, we're highlighting technical assistance providers and case studies on water-related opportunities through the Climate Smart Communities program. And we want to highlight for municipalities, there's lots of opportunities to support your Climate Smart Communities work. There's lots of help out there and opportunities to get points through collaborations and technical assistance. If you're not representing a municipality, you may be working on projects that could support communities in this program, and we want to call your attention to some of those potential areas of collaboration as well. Last month, we had members of Cornell Cooperative Extension Dutchess County present on the wide range of Climate Smart Communities actions related to water, along with some of the technical assistance that the Cornell Cooperative Extension agencies provide, and a recording of that is available on YouTube. We want to thank the Hudson River Estuary Program and NUIPIC for their support of this program, along with the Hudson Valley Regional Council for helping to organize the series. A couple of other announcements. We are hosting our annual Watershed Conference this month with a focus this year on diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental justice. We had our first session yesterday. It was a webinar yesterday afternoon, and I see some names. Some of you were on that webinar and you're back for more this morning, which is so great. If you missed the webinar, we have the recording available and we'll be sending that out. So registration is not closed for that. You can go ahead and register on our website and get a link to view the recording of that session, which was really powerful yesterday. We will reconvene in person on Tuesday, October 24th from 9 to 3 at the FDR Historic Site in Hyde Park, New York. And that session will focus on strategies and case studies from the Hudson River watershed to think about improving our diversity, equity, inclusion, and environmental justice work. So more information and registration is on our website, and I'll be dropping all of the links in the chat as soon as I'm done presenting. I also wanted to mention the Hudson Valley Flood Resilience Network. This is a network of municipal leaders from across the Hudson Valley that's working together on current and future flood risks. This network is facilitated by the Hudson River Watershed Alliance, New York Sea Grant, and the Consensus Building Institute. And we provide programming, information, and networking opportunities for our members and partners. You can learn more at our new website, hvfloodresiliencenetwork.org. Municipalities throughout the Hudson Valley, so that those are along the Hudson River and also in the Hudson River watershed, can join as a member. Any representative from a municipality, whether you're staff, an elected official, a volunteer that represents a municipality, you can join as a member. And agencies, regional nonprofits, and consulting firms can join as partners. And once you join, either as a member or partner, you have access to our programming and more information. So we have upcoming fall programs, a webinar next week on Hudson River flooding projections, along with meetings and site visits planned in Albany and Yonkers in November. Our meetings and site visits bring folks together, share information, provide networking opportunities, and also a tour of flood mitigation projects, which is always a highlight. So if you're interested in getting more information, the website is hvfloodresiliencenetwork.org/join. So again, if you want to come to those programs, you'll join the Flood Resilience Network to get more information. So that's it from me. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Tara Donadio from Capital District Regional Planning Commission to provide our first presentation.
All right, thanks so much. I'm going to share my screen. Share my screen. Can you see that, Emily? Okay, great. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Tara Donadio. I'm the Assistant Director of Sustainability for the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. I'm going to talk about the Climate Smart program as it relates to water, but specifically water-related case studies, because I know you guys got a great overview from CCE last month about which water-related actions were in the CSC program. So I'm going to try and give you some clear-cut examples of how communities are actually getting points for some of the things they're doing. So I just wanted to give an overview for those that don't know who CDRPC is. We are the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. We are an entity of 4 counties since 1967. So Albany, Schenectady, Saratoga, and Rensselaer counties. About 10 years ago, we started to do some sustainability work in the region, and we are funded through the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Program and the DEC's Climate Smart Communities Program. And those actually cover an 8-county area. So we've added Warren, Washington, Columbia, and Greene into our technical service area for those programs. We have an outreach staff of 3, myself, Haley, and Josh, that cover the 8-county capital region that we work in. There's so much interest here that's enough, but probably still not enough. And that's super exciting that we're seeing that much interest in these types of programs. Our director, Todd Fabozzi, and then also highlighting our GIS analyst and water quality person, Madison Hritzko here, as well as obviously I'm diving into some water quality stuff that we do at CDRPC. So again, we provide free technical support for this program. There's a map of our region. We are so thrilled with the number of communities that have pledged and gotten certified in this program since it started, but even in the last few years, there's been a huge uptake in interest. You can see Columbia County, really bunch of rock stars down there. But we can help with adopting the pledge, getting registered, planning for points. We can help with individual action guidance. We can dive deeper into actions like greenhouse gas inventories and climate action planning work. We also can support grants for CSC actions, including the CEC program, which is mitigation-based actions, and then also the CSC grants, which cover a whole host of different things that I'll talk about at the end. So I wanted to start first with just the highlighting of the difference between adaptation and mitigation, which are the 2 pieces of planning and implementation that the Climate Smart Communities program faces, just because I really wanted to highlight that the majority of water actions are related to adaptation. But that's clearly a very important piece of this work. So for those that don't know, adaptation is kind of the variety of actions that are meant to reduce or compensate for or adapt to adverse impacts from climate change. So the idea that we are facing a crisis and that we need to adapt regardless of how much we reduce emissions from things like increase water, decrease water, heat, which can, reduce water and cause drought. There's a whole host of things, but just that we need to figure out how to make that all work. And then the other side of it being mitigation, which is reduction of greenhouse gases to, make sure that we're not increasing climate change. This, again, doesn't relate as much to the piece of water that we're talking about today. I also wanted to kind of just map for you. And again, you got the really great download on all these actions last month, but just relating things to adaptation and mitigation. So most of these water-related actions fall into adaptation, thinking about planning for the fact that climate change is a reality. But there are a few actions related to mitigation that I think are worth highlighting, more so from the kind of movement of water for government operations, whether it be water pumps or, thinking about the energy use related to those water pumps, reducing energy use, using solar to move water or heat water, and then energy efficient fixtures. So that's kind of, in my mind, how it relates to water. So I wanted to highlight the Capital District Regional Planning Commission's water quality work that we do. Obviously, I introduced you to our sustainability team, and then mentioned Madison. Our sustainability team doesn't really dive into a lot of these planning activities because we have other staff that do that, but it's all about how we work together and figure out what communities are doing and how they can get points and get credit and get grants for these types of projects, and tying it all together because it all is related to climate change. So two things that we do or are funded by at CDRPC are the CSO Pool Communities Program and the 604B program. CSO Pool is a unique program for our region, for the state, I believe, in general. We have 6 communities here that are part of the combined sewer overflow into the Hudson Valley or Hudson River. Basically, what we did is created this kind of group that, basically is saving money by developing and executing a long-term control plan together. So there's been over 50 projects. It's a 15-year plan, about 145 million pledged. CDRPC is the program coordinator for this effort. And then another just, kind of fun piece of work that we were able to do with this is a green infrastructure toolkit for these communities to kind of help them understand, how to improve their green infrastructure. So that's a pretty cool, unique program. If you want more information about that, please reach out to me and I can connect you with Madison, who can inform you more about that process. And then 604B, which is more common. So that is the funding that we receive from the New York State DEC to provide technical support for the region in the form of watershed plans and other things. You will probably know it as the DWS P2 program, which is how municipalities kind of apply for that technical assistance. And if you're in the capital region, it's CDRPC that's going to help you with that. We also, through this funding, did a GI code audit tool. So basically you can go in and plug in your code and figure out if it has good green infrastructure components to it. And then we also attend and collaborate with local water quality coordinating committees and MS4 groups through this funding. We've done 2 plans and are updating those plans: the Water Valley Reservoir, which is the water source for the town of Gilderland and the city of Water Valley, and then the Tomahawk, which is the water source for the city of Troy. So into the core of what I wanted to talk about today is Albany County, specifically, and their case studies that they've gotten credit for in the Climate Smart Communities program. So Albany County was certified bronze on September 25th, 2021 with 176 points and 30 completed actions. This is a beautiful map of the county that was done as part of their resilience plan of the watersheds within the county. And I'm going to highlight some of the water-related actions that they got points for. But really also highlighting the fact that if you're a county, you can do this as well. It's not, this is not just a town, city, village program. Counties are more than eligible to do this program and definitely have done some things to get points. So the green infrastructure action, which is PE7, the county had upgraded their public works facility and got 2 out of the 4 points that they achieved for this upgrade. Basically what they did is they assessed drainage patterns and pollutant hotspots for their main facility in New Scotland. They have about 6 or 7 facilities, I think, in the county, DPW facilities. They concluded runoff patterns at the time, exposed pollutant hotspots, such as the fueling salt storage area and the material stockpiles. They were able to divert from the core of the property where pollutant hotspots existed and allowed to filter into the ground through some stone infiltration trenches. And then as of 2015, the drainage from about 35% of the 6.6 acres of impervious area has been diverted to infiltration practices. So pretty cool case study example. But I also wanted to highlight that they are actually replacing 2 more. This is a replacement, a full replacement for these, the Queemans and the Knox DPW facilities with full new facilities that are going to include rainwater collection for vehicle washing, geothermal, and solar, multi-million-dollar projects. And it's going to be super exciting, and they'll get points for this likely in the next round of recertification that they'll apply for. So another project that they got funding for, well, they got funding for this, but they also got points for in the CSC program. 2 out of the 4 points that they got was for these 2 county route upgrades for green infrastructure. So basically what they did at both of these intersections is they removed the Y intersection and replaced it with a T, which decreased the impervious surface. And then the subbase was scarified and partially removed, and they added topsoil mulching grass. So both really great projects. They actually only, some insider information, received 2 of the requested 4 points for this because one of the projects was older than 15 years. So these have to be projects that happened within the last 15 years. And then another thing to note here is that the points for these infrastructure, green infrastructure projects, which are actually the implementation points, you can get points for planning and things as well through this action, are based on the estimated amount of water treated or captured per storm event. They didn't have a good estimate of that. So just something to consider when you're doing any implementation projects for green infrastructure is to be able to kind of quantify that if you're looking for climate smart communities points. So another action that they received points for is PE7, water conservation and reuse. 4 points were received here for a fantastic rain barrel project that they did with the Water Quality Coordinating Committee and Albany County Soil and Water. They distributed 280 plus rain barrels to the public, which were partially funded by a conservation project funding. They had some really good marketing and stuff. Lots of all hands on deck with this. CDRPC actually kind of hosted some of the barrels and distributed some of them as well. But this little quote here actually, you know, kind of is just some good outreach. Every inch of rain that falls on the catchment area of 1,000 square feet yields approximately 600 gallons of free rainwater. So again, this program was pretty popular, and they got 4 points for this. So on to some planning projects that they got points for. PE7 Climate Resilient Hazard Mitigation Plan is what HMP stands for. They received the full 4 points there. And then their Climate Adaptation Plan, which they didn't finish when they applied, but will likely submit for 31 points for next recertification cycle for them. So these two actions kind of tie together, which is why I put them in one slide. But the HMP was completed in 2018. If you're not familiar with what an HMP is, it's funded by FEMA and DISHES, which is the Department of Homeland Security, New York State Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services in New York State. And basically counties have to do these plans every 5 years in order to get, I believe it's FEMA assistance. Don't quote me on that, but basically they have to have these plans in place. So the county's updating it right now. But basically the plan documents how climate change may affect a community's vulnerability to flooding, heat waves, drought, and extreme precipitation events. So thinking about all those kind of emergency management situations that they might encounter with flooding. They took the HMP data and they went even further with it by doing a county climate resiliency plan in 2023. This was funded by the New York State Department of State grant for countywide resiliency planning. There was, I want to say 5 or 6 counties in New York State that received this funding. They completed it again in 2023, and it is just a wonderful plan. I highly suggest taking a look at it. There's 2 of the visuals there from the plan that they released this year. And again, they get a good chunk of points for that. About 31 is what we're estimating based on kind of 3 different actions that they'll see some points for in the program. So on to another community that I just wanted to highlight briefly, because I'm just trying to make the point here that Albany County is big. They've obviously done a lot of stuff. They have a lot of wonderful partners within the county that allow them to achieve these points, but small communities can do stuff too. The Village of Kinderhook did PE7 water smart landscaping. They received 1 point here, but I think this is an invaluable exercise. It wasn't high cost. There was volunteer effort in this, but still a great example of how a municipality can get behind this and also encourage residents to do similar things. So it is a 1 acre site, small village park in the Village of Kinderhook, led by a village resident. The meadow park was replaced the mowed lawn, but it still maintains a stroll path throughout. Seeding's time with rainwater patterns, so no village water is being used to grow the meadow. And then they did some really great outreach there that you'll see. The Columbia County Land Conservancy did funded this great brochure. And they also have a list, I think it's on the back of this brochure that I didn't include, of all of the native plants that they're using in the garden. So just a really great thing. And but not saying that small communities can't get the points that Albany County got before for things like green infrastructure and things like that. So basically all sizes of all communities can participate in this program and get points for water related actions. So this is the Climate Smart Communities grants, which I just wanted to highlight. Is a lot of the projects that I just mentioned require some funding, and sometimes significant funding depending on the project. And if a community needs to do something like replace a DPW, it's important to note that there's grants eligible for sometimes up to 50%, if not more, of that funding to do this. So this is the CSC actions that are funded through the Climate Smart Communities grants, which are announced usually right around the CFA, so in May of each year and due in July. So you kind of have to have some forethought as to whether or not this is something you're interested in, the planning, but knowing that the ones highlighted in blue are water-related actions can be funded at 50% through this program. And then the implementation project side of the CSE grants, which funds projects up to $2 million. 50% match again required by the community. But again, if this is something you're already planning, might as well get 50% funding. The implementation projects can focus on greenhouse gas mitigation reduction or climate change and adaptation. Climate adaptation projects include things like flood risk reduction, replacing right-sizing flow barriers, extreme heat preparation. So a whole lot of actions that you could probably fit your project into. One final case study for this is the Village of Hunters implementation funding that they got from this grant program. They received $1.9 million to relocate their firehouse, which was in a floodplain. And basically, in the existing station and back building is going to be demolished and replaced with the municipal park with streamside access. So this was a much needed project that the village had been talking about for years. The full project itself, of course, is $3.8 million. So they got half of that funding through the Climate Smart Communities grants. And just to note too, that the village is not a climate smart community. They didn't take the pledge, but it does help to get those points because these grants are becoming more and more competitive every year as more communities, recognize that they're available. So just a point that there is large amounts of funding out there for climate adaptation projects. And this is just one example of how that funding was achieved. And then last but definitely not least, I wanted to highlight the Columbia County effort to do a climate adaptation plan. This effort was funded by the DEC's Climate Smart Coordinator Services through the Capital District Regional Planning Commission. We have contracted to Cornell Cooperative Extension of Columbia Green, who's also working with CCE Ulster and CCE Dutchess to do this effort. Basically, what is happening here is the county, as well as I think it's 17 towns and villages within the county, are doing this adaptation planning exercise together. And it's obviously a shared use of resources because the county's doing it, but a lot of the mapping and stuff obviously overlaps with the towns and villages and things like that. So this is kind of a big cohort effort. And it's set to be done in March. All of the county, as well as all of the towns and villages, will get the points, which we're estimating will be about 31 points per each community that wants to apply with this adaptation planning effort. And we're really hoping that the state takes this model and moves with it because it's a really good use of resources to do this at a county level with towns included. So more to come on that. Stay tuned. And that is all I have here. Thanks so much for having me again. And I'll be around for questions, which I think we will take at the end. Okay, great.
Thanks so much, Tara. We are going to take questions at the end. If you have questions, please use the Q&A box in Zoom to ask those. And we'll hand it off next to Lauren Bunce and Liz Sun from Hudson Valley Regional Council.
Okay, great. Thanks, Emily. Good morning. Hi, I'm Liz Sun. I'm the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator with Hudson Valley Regional Council. I'm also joined by Lauren Bunce, our Water Resources Coordinator, and she will be covering some material later on. But today we'll be presenting to you on some technical assistance for climate smart communities related to water actions. So first, a little bit about Hudson Valley Regional Council. We are one of 10 regional planning organizations in New York State and serve the 7 counties in the Mid-Hudson region. We help municipalities access and understand information and grants from the state and federal level and provide technical assistance on environmental and sustainability programs, economic development, materials management, and water resources. Our programmatic areas are funded by NYSERDA, the DEC, the Hudson River Estuary Program, the EDA, and the EPA. So feel free to reach out to us on any of these areas. And this work would not be possible without the annual support from our county government members. So the Climate Smart Communities program is supported by 7 state agencies to help municipalities take action to fight climate change. The program focuses on both climate mitigation and adaptation, as Tara had covered earlier. So HVRC provides basic certification assistance on the CSC program, such as answering questions about actions, and we will also review certification applications. We've also received funding from the DEC to provide further technical assistance and work in depth with communities to assist them in completing 4 priority actions, which are greenhouse gas inventories and climate action plans for government operations and community overall. We're using a cohort model that includes lots of one-on-one support, templates, and assistance with data collection. So if you're interested, please reach out to find out more. And then if you'd like to find out more information about the Climate Smart Communities program, how to register, and a list of all the actions that you can be involved in, please follow the link to this website, and we'll be sharing the slides after the webinar. Okay, and then I will pass it off to Lauren.
Great, thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Bunce. I'm the Water Resources Coordinator at the Hudson Valley Regional Council. So what I do is I work under the 604B Water Quality Program, which I believe Tara mentioned a bit in the beginning. So through this program, the HVRC is able to offer water quality technical assistance to municipalities and watershed groups in our region, so the Mid-Hudson region. So this would be under the programmatic objectives of the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, 9-element plans, and municipal separate stormwater sewer system, or the MS4 general permit, and then more generally, the local, regional, and watershed planning. So this technical assistance could include DWSP2 plan writing and development, planning for the necessary components of the MS4 permit, and providing MS4 and stormwater related trainings. It also includes assistance with other watershed plans than the 9E, grants, and resiliency planning for flooding. So these are the 3 CSC actions that kind of relate directly to the technical assistance that's offered under the 604B Water Quality Planning Program. So I'll be talking about these a little bit in more detail. I'm also going to note that sort of under that general, local, regional, and watershed planning category, we have that flooding resiliency technical assistance. So there is some capacity for some other actions that kind of mention having are related to flooding resiliency that we could offer some assistance on as well. So under the MS4 general permit, we are able to offer stormwater management planning to all municipalities. So it's not just the ones focused in MS4 regions, but also stormwater to every other municipality. So we were able to offer stormwater trainings, particularly ones for local government staff and planning and zoning board members. We also offer technical assistance on the MS4 general permit, kind of with mapping and record keeping, and also management planning for the 6 minimum control measures. This assistance most closely aligns with the PE7 Green Infrastructure Action that I believe Tara had a nice case study on that she mentioned. This action focuses on updating, creating a community-wide plan for green infrastructure projects as either a standalone plan, or it can be part of any other kind of relevant planning document, such as a hazard mitigation plan. Implementation of these planned green infrastructures are required for this action. So this overlaps with our 604B assistance through the green infrastructure training portion of it, which is designed to help local government staff in planning and maintenance of this green infrastructure. So HVRC is able to assist with planning and hosting these training events. Communities can receive 1 point for completing 2 hours of green infrastructure training for 50% or more of their code enforcement officers, MS4 stormwater officers, engineers, and zoning and planning board members at least once every 2 years. So 9E plans are another part of our technical assistance. And so they're clean water plans that details a community's water quality concerns and develops a strategy to address these concerns. So these plans are typically created when a non-point source pollution is the primary threat of the watershed. So HVRC can help with any portion of this planning process. So this can include like the planning section of it, or reviewing any sections. We could also assist by creating an implementation best management practice database, which will help with deciding which methods would be best to address the source of pollution in any given watershed. We can also assist with the implementation of this plan. So if you need some kind of like intermunicipal coordination or something, that's something that we can help with as well. So 9E plans best align with the PE7 watershed plan for water quality action. So this action can be implemented by creating or updating watershed characterization and or watershed plan focused on water quality resources within the community. So municipalities may follow the general process municipalities may follow the general process and report components described in the New York State Department of State's Comprehensive Watershed Planning Guidebook, or applicants can follow the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation's guidance for 9-element plans, like I had mentioned. All watershed plans should include a section related to climate change and how it will be addressed within the watershed. So 2 points are awarded for a watershed plan that covers less than 75% of the municipal geographic area, and 4 points are awarded for a watershed plan that covers 75% or more of the area. I would also note that there are 2 points that can be awarded for a watershed characterization plan that covers a minimum of 15% of the municipal geographic area. HVRC can also offer some technical assistance for general watersheds, so it's not just 9E plans. So any kind of watershed plan that you're interested in, we can help. And lastly, the Drinking Water Source Protection Program is designed to aid communities in creating individual protection plan for the drinking water sources. So HVRC is designated by the DEC as a technical assistance provider for their GWSP2 program. So this is a very broad and in-depth technical assistance program that we are able to offer to communities. And this includes project hosting and coordination, plan writing and development, data interpretation and source map development, guidance on funding resources for plan implementation, and development of an implementation timeline. So really, this whole technical assistance is offered to municipalities at no cost to them and only at their time. So we'll be doing the writing and the map development and looking for you guys for input. So this lines pretty much directly with the PE7 action source water protection. The goal of this action is to help communities better understand their climate impacts on their source water, and implement measures to ensure water supplies remain cost-effective, viable, and resilient in the face of climate change. So municipalities can receive 6 points for creating and adopting a source water protection plan. And I want to note that adopting is kind of the important word here, since you're not required to adopt the plan if you develop it, but in order to receive points for this action, you must adopt it. And then 4 additional points can be awarded for implementing at least 2 of the protection methods that you define in the plan. So if you are interested or if your municipality is interested, please reach out to us. The DEC recently announced an application deadline that will be on November 14th at 4 p.m. So if you want to be part of this program, you'll have to fill out the application by then. If you need any help or have any questions on the application, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you. This is my contact information and also my colleague Liz's if you've got any questions on the CSC program as a whole. And this is the contact information for everyone at HVRC in case you're interested in any of our other programmatic areas. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Liz and Lauren and Tara, for presenting on all of your different programs, opportunities, and case studies. I think it's really helpful to see the full range, not only of assistance that's available, but also the range from Albany County to the Village of Kinderhook, from Troy down to Yonkers. We're covering a lot of ground here. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to ask them. And I want to verbalize one question that I see, Tara, you answered in the Q&A box already, but it's a really good one, and I want to make this point. The question was, how does Columbia's climate adaptation plan get to 31 points? Because that action lists a point range of 3 to 15. And I see in your answer that they're leveraging, they're taking one project and they're accomplishing multiple actions with one very thoughtful project. Can you elaborate a little bit? Can you talk a little bit about your answer here?
Sure, yeah. And it's kind of the way that the DEC set up this action, which they have the adaptation plan, which is kind of like your you know, your full finished plan, but you really can't do an adaptation plan without doing vulnerability assessment, because you have to really start there. And then the other piece of it is the evaluate policies for climate resilience, which is a tool that helps you with that process. And CCE in this case is taking the community through all of these steps, or each of the communities, the 17 plus the county itself. And then similarly for Albany County, they did the same thing. Obviously, they had a pretty comprehensive assessment of their vulnerabilities before they started an adaptation resilience plan. So yeah, you get a whole host, which I think is well-deserved when you get to that point and you've done all of that assessment and done all that planning. And I did do the math wrong. It should be 37 points if, you know, the DEC awards all those. And again, I think well-deserved. So.
That's great. So that's really thoughtful design on the part of the Climate Smart Communities program, but also for the municipalities that are working on getting those points, that it's not like every action is its own separate project. So you may want to scan the actions and see where you can leverage, where you can combine certain projects and write them into that kind of a scope. Great. On a very grassroots practical level, how does a local watershed group or individual start the conversation in their municipality about this? Do they meet with the town planner? Do they try to convince a town board member? This particular town doesn't currently have a CAC, a Conservation Advisory Council, or similar entity that might be a logical place to start. How do you recommend starting that conversation?
Well, Bethlehem is a community in my region, but I feel like, Lauren, you may know more about how to how to get these watershed groups engaged in this conversation. Not to put you on the spot there, but
Yeah, no, I think talking to your town board would be a good option. So you can go to like a public meeting and kind of try to talk about, you know, the actions that you're interested in with them and see what their feedback is.
and I'll mention too, of course, please reach out to us, Larissa, if you want to more guidance on that. I can connect you with Madison and our staff here that can guide you to figure out a good process for that. So.
Yeah, and I'll add that the first step in the Climate Smart Communities program is that resolution, is that so before you can do the certification process, there's a sign-on that the town or the municipality would do, and I believe that the town board needs to pass that. So it does seem like if you don't have an existing climate smart task force or a conservation advisory council, you know, or perhaps someone who's like the local champion on climate change issues at your municipality, that going to the town board outright might be a good place to start, since that would be an action that they would need to take.
And I will mention too that Bethlehem does have a pledge adopted, and there are some fine folks in the community that are starting this effort, but I don't think they have officially a task force yet. So I can connect you with them as well. And, you know, maybe this will be the impetus to really get things rolling there.
Great, thank you. We've got a question about the green infrastructure pledge element. Tara, you mentioned a couple of examples of this. Do projects under the green infrastructure pledge element 7 need to incorporate bioretention areas, rain gardens, etc., in addition to reducing or removing impervious surface? Or does the removal of existing impervious surface qualify for points by itself? They're thinking about the example where Albany County removed asphalt associated with going from a Y intersection to a T intersection.
Yeah, so I did mention that briefly, but basically the removal of impervious surface isn't the what's the word I'm looking for? Isn't the calculation they're looking for in that. They're looking for water displaced. So you're looking for that as kind of your metric of your project itself, although they did award points to Albany County for that. So that's an important piece of it. Projects didn't need to incorporate bioretention areas, rain gardens. So I don't think they need to incorporate those things necessarily. It's about, with these implementation projects, again, just making sure you're able to quantify the cubic feet of water that's being, you know, kind of displaced. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's the runoff reduction calculation, and
Yes.
you can reduce runoff by removing impervious surface, by using infiltration practices. It sounds like there's sort of a range of options there.
Yeah, and planning is another piece of green infrastructure too. So you do get points for things like green infrastructure improvement plans and things like that. So
Great, thank you. Any other questions from our audience here? Any other comments from our speakers today?
I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me. And I look forward if anyone wants to follow up with me, and I can connect you with some of our water quality staff if you're interested in the DWSP2 stuff and you're in the capital region, we encourage it. So, and if you really want to nerd out, please go to the Albany County website and check out the resilience plan, because it's lots of maps and really cool data. And, you know, I think seeing something like that in all communities is going to be awesome. So.
Great. Yeah, it's so helpful to see case studies of people that have done these projects, done them well, you know, no need to reinvent the wheel across the region. I think we can really leverage the experience that others have had as we all move forward on this work. So I'm seeing thanks in the Q&A. I'm seeing thanks in the chat. So echoing that, thank you everyone for being here this morning. Thank you so much to our presenters. We'll be posting this on our YouTube channel and sharing some of the resources, so you'll have those on hand. And again, you know, feel free to share our little reference library here on climate smart communities and water with folks from your communities as well. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you next month.